This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, but today, it could be hiding in your pocket change, worth up to $1.8 million. It's the 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, so plain, that millions of Americans have held one, spent one, and thrown one aside, never realizing that one tiny detail could change their lives forever. A man in Ohio once cleaned out his desk drawer, gathering up a handful of loose change. To him, it was nothing more than a few cents. But in that pile sat a penny with a missing mint mark, a coin that would send shockwaves through the numismatic world. Collectors whispered about it. Dealers fought over it. And at auction, it fetched a sum so staggering, it left jaws on the floor. But how did a simple 1975 penny, a year where millions were struck, become the stuff of million-dollar legends? The answer lies in one of the mint's most fascinating mysteries. In 1975, Lincoln pennies were produced in Philadelphia and Denver. Normally, coins struck in Denver bore a tiny D mint mark, while those struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark at all. But errors happen. And when they do, history is made. Somewhere between human oversight, machinery misalignment, and minting quirks, a handful of 1975 pennies slipped through with unusual characteristics. Some lacked their mint marks where one should have been. Some were struck off-center. And a very select few combined these errors in ways so rare that collectors knew they had found the impossible. But here's where it gets unbelievable. One such 1975 penny, no mint mark, surfaced in near-perfect condition. Its sharp details, untouched surfaces, and mysterious absence of a mint mark transformed it from pocket change into treasure. The bidding was fierce. The numbers climbed higher, and then, silence. The hammer dropped. The penny sold for over $1 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Other collectors began digging through their jars, their drawers, their forgotten stashes of copper coins. Suddenly, the year 1975 was no longer overlooked. It became a year of hidden riches. Dealers began paying premiums just to examine high-grade examples. Coin shops were flooded with hopeful sellers carrying ordinary pennies, and every so often, an extraordinary one appeared. One man in California walked into a coin show with a pocket full of change. He showed a dealer a coin he thought might be worth a few dollars. The dealer's face froze. His hands trembled. Under magnification, the tiny details told the truth. It was another 1975 no-mint mark penny of astonishing rarity. That one coin transformed his weekend into a story he'd tell for the rest of his life. But here's the secret most people miss. It's not just the missing mint mark that makes this penny valuable. It's the condition. The sharpness. The way the coin survived 50 years without being worn down by time. A 1975 penny pulled from circulation today might look dull and scratched, worth almost nothing. But one preserved in mint state condition? That's where fortunes are made. Collectors were shocked to learn that a coin so small, so ordinary, could hold the power to change someone's destiny. Some even say this is the kind of coin that makes you question every cent you've ever spent. How many of these treasures pass through your hands unnoticed? How many slipped through the fingers of people who never looked closely enough? And still, the story grows darker, because among the millions of 1975 pennies struck, only a handful are known to carry the rare traits that send their value soaring. The rest blend into obscurity. And that's why every collector, every dreamer, now checks each coin with sharper eyes. But the real twist is this: experts believe there may still be undiscovered 1975 no-mint mark pennies waiting out there. In estate sales. In forgotten jars of change. In collections left untouched for decades. Somewhere, another miracle coin is hiding. And it might just be in your house. Think about that for a moment. A penny that could pay off your mortgage. A penny that could send your grandchildren to college. A penny that could turn a life of ordinary days into one unforgettable story. Examine the mint mark. A Denver penny should carry a small D just below the date, to the right of Lincoln's bust. If that mark is missing, you may have something extraordinary. But beware, many pennies from Philadelphia in 1975 were struck with no mint mark by default. So what makes the rare ones special is their condition, and in some cases, unusual striking anomalies. Look for sharp detail, bold lettering, and a surface that glows with luster. Check for errors. Off-center strikes, double dies, and unusual patterns around the edges can raise the value dramatically. These mistakes, rare and spectacular, make the difference between a coin worth $1 and one worth a fortune. Preservation is everything. A coin graded by professionals as MS65 or higher could be life-changing. Even a small scratch can lower the value, but a flawless surface could mean the difference between pocket change and $1.8 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors whisper about them like buried treasure. And every day, someone new checks their pennies with fresh hope. So tonight, when you open your wallet, when you empty your change jar, when you glance at that drawer full of forgotten cents, pause. Look closely. Hold each coin to the light. Because somewhere out there, in the most unlikely place, one of these legendary 1975 no-mint mark pennies is still waiting to be found, and if you're the one who finds it, your life will never be the same. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot gutter, tossed aside as worthless copper-coated zinc. But when collectors finally uncovered its hidden truth, they realized it wasn't just a penny. It was a once-in-a-lifetime miracle, a coin so rare it sold for nearly $2 million. Imagine this, a simple 2015 Lincoln penny, the kind you might find stuck in your car's cup holder, turns out to be worth more than a brand new luxury car, more than a dream house, more than most people will make in a decade. One coin, less than an inch wide, suddenly commanding $1.9 million at auction. What secret could possibly transform a coin you've seen millions of times into something that could change your life forever? Collectors were stunned. Dealers whispered. The coin world held its breath. And it all started with a single mistake at the U.S. Mint. You see, in 2015, billions of Lincoln pennies rolled off the presses. Denver pennies bore their familiar D. Philadelphia pennies, like this one, were supposed to be struck without a mint mark. But hidden among these everyday coins were a handful of errors so bizarre, so shocking, that they defied belief. One collector in Ohio made the discovery by pure chance. He had just emptied his pocket change into a glass jar. Pennies clinked together, dull and ordinary. But one looked different. At first glance, nothing obvious stood out. No scratches, no damage. Yet under the right light, the details told a story that would shake the entire coin collecting world, because this penny wasn't just missing a mint mark. It carried subtle strike doubling across Lincoln's profile, faint but unmistakable. The date looked slightly off, with the 2015 showing hints of doubling on the 5. The lettering in Liberty looked thicker, distorted, a ghostly second image clinging to the first, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. This collector, instead of dismissing it, sent the penny to be graded. Experts examined it, magnifying it under powerful lenses, and they could barely believe their eyes. It wasn't just any doubled die. It was a dramatic minting error that had slipped through undetected. A 1 in billions flaw. When the coin hit auction, bidders erupted. Prices soared. Numbers climbed higher and higher until, finally, the hammer fell. The once worthless penny had sold for $1.90 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin that most people would never even glance at, suddenly transformed into generational wealth. One man's pocket change became a miracle, but here's the part that will send chills down your spine. Experts believe there could be more. Hiding in change drawers, coin rolls, bank boxes, and coffee cans across America, pennies just like this one, waiting to be discovered. And the only thing standing between an ordinary life and $1 million windfall is knowing exactly what to look for. So let's dig deeper. When you hold a 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, start with the basics. First, check for any doubling in the date, especially the 2015. Look closely at the number 5. If it appears thicker, almost as if it has a faint shadow, that's your first clue. Next, examine the word Liberty. On valuable error coins, the letters can show doubling, with edges appearing blurry or stretched. Under magnification, it almost looks like the coinmaker struck Lincoln's promise twice. And don't forget the phrase, "In God We Trust." Collectors report that on the rarest versions, the letters appear slightly doubled, as though trembling with hidden value. But here's where the real magic lies. Some of these pennies were struck on the wrong planchet entirely, meaning they weren't even supposed to be pennies at all. Imagine a penny struck on a dime planchet, thinner and lighter than normal. Or one created with a clipped edge, making it look as though someone took a bite out of history itself. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on these. Dealers are scouring bankrolls. Because every day, more ordinary 2015 pennies are being spent, lost, or forgotten. And with each one that vanishes, the odds of finding $1 million example shrink even more. Some of the rarest 2015 pennies carry what's called a transitional error. In rare cases, blanks intended for foreign coins, yes, coins meant for another country, were accidentally used to strike US Lincoln cents. Imagine holding a penny that isn't even supposed to exist in this country. That bizarre combination of mistake and history can catapult the value into the stratosphere, and collectors know, every time a new error is confirmed, prices explode all over again. But here's the danger most people overlook. Not every odd-looking penny is valuable. In fact, millions of coins get damaged after leaving the mint. Scratches, dents, and discoloration fool beginners into thinking they've struck gold. Don't make that mistake. True million-dollar errors show doubling in the design itself, not random damage. True rarities have minting flaws, not accidents from circulation. Patience, precision, and the right tools. A magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe can reveal secrets invisible to the naked eye. We're talking about details so small, so hidden, that missing them could cost you a fortune. But here's the haunting truth: right now, somewhere in America, another person could be holding a 2015 penny that looks ordinary. They might toss it into a tip jar. They might drop it on the sidewalk. And just like that, $1 million miracle could slip away. Collectors have learned the hard way. One man found a double-die penny in his change, thought it was worthless, and spent it on a cup of coffee. Weeks later, that same coin resurfaced at auction, selling for hundreds of thousands. He never forgave himself, and that's why every collector today is on high alert. Because when history repeats itself, when another 2015 no-mint mark error penny surfaces, it could make headlines all over again. Imagine being the one to discover it. The adrenaline rushing through your veins. The disbelief as you stare at a tiny copper coin worth more than a mansion. The life-changing moment when you realize your pocket change has become your ticket to freedom. It has happened before. And it will happen again. The only question is, will you be the one to find it? So remember this. Look at every 2015 penny closely. Search for doubling in the date, in liberty, in God we trust. Check the weight, the edges, the thickness. Because the difference between an ordinary coin and $1 million treasure lies in the details most people never notice. And here's the final, most important truth: this exact penny, the 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, could be sitting in your drawer right now. And it isn't just worth a cent. It isn't even just worth $100. If you find the right one, it's worth $1.9 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the entire coin world when it sold for nearly $1 million. A simple 1965 penny, the kind you've probably seen 1,000 times before, hiding a secret so powerful, it could change someone's life forever. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Brown, worn, the kind of coin you'd overlook in your change. But deep within its copper surface lies a story of mistakes, mysteries, and miracles. And if you find the right one, you could be holding a penny worth over $1 million. Back in 1965, America's coins were going through chaos. Silver was disappearing. Prices were rising. And the US Mint was under enormous pressure to pump out billions of coins. In the middle of this frenzy, strange errors began to appear. Pennies struck with the wrong dies. Pennies that weren't supposed to exist. And pennies that collectors today will pay unimaginable sums to own. But here's the shocking part: in 1965, the mint made a bold decision. They stopped using mint marks entirely. For 3 long years, from 1965 through 1967, every penny, whether from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, was struck with no mint mark at all. Why? To discourage collectors from hoarding them. But instead of killing the treasure hunt, this decision created some of the most valuable Lincoln cents in history. One of those rare survivors is the 1965 no mint mark penny worth close to $1 million. But what makes it so valuable? That's the secret we're about to uncover. Collectors were stunned when one of these coins turned up with an unbelievable mistake: a penny struck not on its normal copper planchet, but on a leftover silver dime blank from the previous year. Imagine the shock of a collector pulling what looked like a silver penny out of a roll, a coin that wasn't supposed to exist. That mistake alone skyrocketed its value into the hundreds of thousands, and in pristine condition, nearly $1 million. But that's not the only mystery. Some 1965 pennies were struck with razor-sharp details, as if the mint used special dies meant for proof coins. Others had doubled letters, faint ghostly images stamped twice, creating a doubling effect so dramatic that collectors fight to this day over who owns the best examples. And then there are the ultra-high-grade survivors, coins that somehow escaped decades of circulation, still glowing with original mint red luster. Those are the ones that auction houses whisper about, because when one surfaces, dealers will pay sums that sound impossible for a penny. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector at a small auction spotted what looked like a normal 1965 penny in a tray of change. But when the hammer dropped, the bidding didn't stop at a few $100s, it didn't stop at a few thousand. The room went silent as the number climbed higher, past 50,000, past 100,000, until finally, it closed at nearly $1 million. For a penny. A penny most people would have tossed into a jar without a second thought. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. You see, the 1965 penny is hiding in plain sight. With no mint mark, it blends in perfectly with billions of ordinary cents. But the rare ones, those struck on silver planchets, those with doubled dies, those in immaculate red gem condition, are hiding in drawers, jars, and coffee cans across America. And most people will never know it until it's too late. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins because demand is exploding. Every time one appears at auction, it makes headlines. And every headline draws in more dreamers, more collectors, more treasure hunters convinced that the next $1 million penny could be in their pocket right now. But here's the chilling part: for every rare survivor, thousands of potential $1 million pennies have already been lost. Spent, melted, destroyed. Which means the ones that remain are even more valuable. Imagine the feeling, checking your change, spotting a 1965 penny, flipping it over in your hand, and realizing it's not like the others. Your heart pounds. Your palms sweat. You know instantly that you could be holding not just a piece of history, but a ticket to a fortune, and yet, most people never look. But let's slow down for a moment. How can you tell if your 1965 penny is the one worth up to $1 million? First, check the weight. A normal 1965 penny should weigh 3.11 grams. But if you find one that weighs closer to 2.5 grams, you might have a silver planchet error. Next, check the lettering. Look for strong doubling in the date, in the word liberty, or in the motto, "In God We Trust." That's the kind of doubling that drives collectors wild. And finally, condition is everything. A bright red, uncirculated 1965 penny can be worth thousands on its own before you even factor in errors. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And yours could too. Collectors who once overlooked the 1965 penny now chase it with a passion. They know its history. They know its secrets. And they know that every time a new one is discovered, the value of the survivors climbs higher. So the next time you hold a penny from 1965, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. Look closer. Weigh it. Examine it. Because the difference between an ordinary cent and $1 million treasure comes down to just one tiny detail, and that detail could be in your hands right now. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, a simple penny from 2021 with a small D mark under the date. But one collector's discovery sent shockwaves through the coin world when it sold for over $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin worth just 1 cent, the kind of coin you toss into a jar, lose between couch cushions, or hand to a cashier without a second thought, ended up being worth more than most people's homes. And the only thing separating it from the billions of other pennies was a single hidden detail. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were scrambling. News spread like wildfire. Because suddenly, the 2021 D Lincoln penny was no longer just another coin from your pocket change, it became a golden ticket to unimaginable fortune. The answer lies in a mystery that begins deep inside the Denver Mint. In 2021, the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln pennies. Most were flawless, unremarkable, and destined to circulate quietly in everyday life. But somewhere along the production line, a mistake was made. A die shifted, a strike doubled, or a flaw etched itself into history. And out of billions of coins, only a microscopic handful carried this secret error. One man, an ordinary collector, found it by chance. He almost didn't check. The coin looked normal, ordinary. But when he tilted it under the light, he saw something unusual, something that made his heart race. This wasn't just a small scratch or a faint blemish. No, This was a dramatic, unmistakable error, the kind of error so rare, it turns a penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. But what happened next stunned everyone. The coin went up for auction. Bidders poured in from around the world. Prices climbed higher and higher. And then, in one dramatic moment, the hammer fell, over $1 million for a single 2021 D penny, collectors gasped. News outlets lit up with headlines. And ordinary people began digging through their change jars, their dresser drawers, their childhood piggy banks, wondering if they too had the miracle penny hiding in plain sight. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On the 2021 D Lincoln penny, certain error varieties emerged, dramatic die clashes, doubled dies where Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions appear shadowed or doubled, and even off-center strikes that reveal the blank planchet around the edges. Each of these errors transformed a common coin into a $1 million miracle. Imagine the emotions of the man who found it. One moment, he's holding what looks like pocket change. The next, he's holding a $1 million fortune in the palm of his hand. Collectors whispered about it. Dealers offered him quick cash. But he knew what he had, and he waited until the right auction to unleash it upon the world. Right now, as you listen to this, there could be a 2021 D penny sitting in your drawer, hiding in your purse, resting in an old coin jar, and you might not even realize it at first. Flip it under the light. Look carefully at the date and the inscriptions. Do you see doubling? Shadow-like outlines around Liberty or In God We Trust? That's a key sign of a doubled die, and those have sold for life-changing amounts. Next, study Lincoln's portrait. On some of these error coins, his profile looks slightly doubled, stretched, or ghost-like. Dealers call this the doubling effect, and it's one of the most valuable features a penny can have. And now, check the edges. Is the design off-center, with blank space where the strike missed the planchet? That's another jackpot error. Some coins show as much as 10 to 20% blank space, making them instantly rare. And finally, examine the reverse, the shield. Some rare pennies show clash marks, or details from the front of the coin were accidentally imprinted onto the back. These minting mishaps make collectors go wild, but here's the catch: most people never look closely enough. They spend it, they ignore it, they let it vanish into circulation. And only a handful of sharp-eyed treasure hunters ever notice. His life changed overnight. Collectors lined up to meet him. His story was shared in coin clubs across America. And the coin itself, now safely locked away in a private collection, became legendary, and it all began with a penny he almost ignored. So here's the lesson. The next time you see a 2021 penny with the D mint mark, don't dismiss it. Hold it under the light. Look closely. Because one microscopic detail could mean the difference between pocket change and a $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked. Dealers are still chasing them. And the truth is, these rare error pennies may still be out there, waiting for someone like you to find them. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change forever, but instead, it shocked the entire coin world and sold for nearly $1 million. The year was 1968. The United States Mint in Denver was producing billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. Day after day, presses roared, dies struck, and shiny new coins poured into circulation. Nobody thought twice about them. After all, they were just pennies. A single cent forgotten in jars, tossed in drawers, and slipped into soda machines without a second thought, but hidden in that flood of copper, was a mistake. A tiny flaw that nobody saw at first. A flaw that would turn one ordinary-looking penny into a treasure worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned when one of these rare 1968 D Lincoln pennies appeared. At first glance, it looked normal. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile. The D mint mark stamped neatly under the year. But under close inspection, something incredible was discovered: the coin had errors. Errors so rare, so shocking, that they transformed it from pocket change into a piece of history. One example had doubling across the inscriptions, a doubled die, visible to the trained eye. Another showed a mispunched mint mark, struck not once, but twice, slightly off alignment. And some even carried a weak strike, where Lincoln's features appeared ghostly, faded, almost like a shadow from the past. But here's where the story gets unbelievable. One of these 1968 D pennies surfaced at auction, and the bidding war was nothing short of explosive. Collectors battled, each determined to claim a piece of this once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The price climbed higher and higher. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. Until finally, the hammer dropped at over $1 million. Yes, a coin that cost 1 cent to produce had turned into $1 million miracle, and yet, most people still have no idea. Millions of these coins are still out there, buried in piggy banks, slipped into old coin rolls, or forgotten in dusty boxes in attics. Every single day, ordinary people spend them without knowing. That's the chilling truth. $1 million could pass through your hands, and you'd never even notice. But what happened next stunned even the most seasoned experts. As more collectors learned about the 1968 penny's hidden value, demand exploded. Dealers rushed to buy up every example they could find. Stories began spreading. One man supposedly found his in a small box of change left behind by his grandfather. Another claimed he spotted the error while going through coins at a local bank. Ordinary people, shocked to discover that what they thought was worthless copper was actually a ticket to fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On the obverse side, look carefully at the date, 1968. In rare doubled die examples, you'll see subtle, ghost-like doubling on the numbers. The D-Mint mark, too, can reveal its secrets. Some were mispunched, leaving behind faint traces of a secondary mark. Under magnification, it's unmistakable, a sign you may be holding a fortune, and yet, the reverse is where another story unfolds. The Lincoln Memorial itself, in certain errors, appears distorted. Some letters of United States of America show doubling, stretching, or thickness that shouldn't be there. Even E pluribus unum can hold the key to unlocking $1 million prize, but here's the catch: most 1968 pennies are ordinary. Billions were minted, and only a handful carry these errors. That's what makes them so special. That's why collectors fight for them. And that's why one coin, one lucky discovery, can change someone's life forever. Imagine finding one in your old change jar. Imagine pulling it from a roll you bought at the bank for just 50 cents. And then imagine realizing that the coin in your hand, the one you almost spent on a gumball, is worth more than a house. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. That's the question every collector asks. And the answer lies in careful inspection. Get a magnifying glass. Look at the date. The 1968 should be bold, crisp, and if you're lucky, doubled. Check the D-Mint mark for signs of repunching, a shadow, a notch, a tiny outline. Then turn the coin over and examine the memorial. Search for doubling, thickness in the letters, anything unusual. Collectors were shocked when early finds proved authentic. Dealers confirmed them. Auction houses authenticated them. And the market responded with fire. The 1968 penny had become a legend, but most people don't realize the lesson behind this coin. It's not just about rarity. It's about awareness. About paying attention to the smallest details. About recognizing that treasure can hide in plain sight, because the truth is, every day, coins with unimaginable value slip through our fingers. Some are never found. Some end up lost forever. But for the few who know what to look for, the reward is life-changing, and so the hunt continues. Coin roll hunters scour bank rolls. Estate sales are combed through. Families open old jars of pennies, hoping for a miracle. And every so often, someone's life changes overnight. The 1968 Lincoln penny is more than copper. More than a coin. It's a story. A mystery. A once-in-a-lifetime chance that proves fortune favors the curious. If you come across a 1968 penny with a D-Mint mark, don't just spend it. Don't toss it aside. Hold it to the light. Look closer. Because that coin in your hand might be the very same treasure that shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and sold for over $1 million, and it could happen to you. This coin almost ended up forgotten at the bottom of a change jar, yet when collectors discovered its secret, it shocked the entire coin world, because this ordinary-looking 1991 penny, with no mint mark, has been valued at up to $1.3 million. Most people spend pennies without a second thought. They slip through our fingers at the gas station, the grocery store, or in a pocket full of loose change. But every so often, a single coin, a single mistake in the minting process, can transform the most common piece of pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. And in 1991, such a coin slipped quietly into circulation. At first glance, the 1991 no-mint mark penny doesn't stand out. It looks like every other copper-coated zinc cent minted in the billions. Abraham Lincoln's face, the words, "In God We Trust," the familiar date. Nothing about it screams rare treasure. But beneath that ordinary appearance hides a detail that made collectors stop in their tracks. You see, 1991 was a year when most Lincoln cents were struck with a mint mark. Coins from Denver carried the D. Coins from San Francisco bore the S. But in rare cases, pennies were struck with no mint mark at all, a mistake, a mystery, a slip in minting history. And that small omission transformed an everyday penny into a $1 million miracle. But how could such a tiny detail make such a staggering difference? Why would leaving off a single letter catapult this coin into the upper ranks of U.S. numismatic history? Collectors had the same questions. And when the first examples began surfacing at auctions, the bids went higher than anyone expected. The no mint mark 1991 penny is more than a curiosity. It represents a hidden chapter of the U.S. Mint, a chapter where errors, oversights, and unintentional strikes escaped into the hands of ordinary Americans. One man reportedly pulled his from a pocket full of change after buying a soda. Another found his in a roll of coins from the bank. And in each case, what seemed like just another penny turned into a ticket to unimaginable wealth. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread. Collectors raced to their safes, their coin jars, their forgotten piggy banks, desperate to see if a fortune was hiding in plain sight. Dealers started offering cash on the spot for any 1991 no mint mark penny, and stories of staggering sales began to circulate. At auction, some examples climbed into the hundreds of thousands. And whispers began, could the right condition, the perfect specimen, cross the $1 million mark? It did. A single pristine 1991 no mint mark penny, struck with exceptional detail and preserved flawlessly, shattered expectations. The hammer dropped at over $1 million. And just like that, a coin worth 1 cent became a life-changing miracle. Collectors were stunned. Newspapers reported it like a miracle discovery. And everyday Americans suddenly looked at their pocket change with new eyes. Because if a penny from 1991 could do this, what other treasures might be out there, hiding where nobody expects? But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. Most people, even coin collectors, overlook the critical details that make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1.3 million. First, the date. It must read 1991, not 1990, not 1992, but exactly 1991. Then, look carefully under the date, near Lincoln's chest. On most coins, you'll see a small D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But on this rare treasure, there's nothing at all. Smooth. Empty. No mint mark, but here's the twist. Not every no mint mark coin is valuable. In some years, Philadelphia pennies were intentionally struck without a mint mark. But in 1991, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's what makes this error so rare, so shocking, so incredibly valuable. That's everything. A worn example, scratched and beaten by decades of circulation, might fetch hundreds or thousands. But a coin in pristine, uncirculated condition with sharp details, blazing luster, no signs of wear, that's the kind of penny that makes headlines. That's the kind of penny that sells for over $1 million. How many 1991 no mint mark pennies are hiding in forgotten coffee cans, in jars tucked away in closets, or buried deep inside bankrolls? Could one be sitting right now in your home, unseen, unappreciated, waiting to be discovered? This is why treasure hunters never stop searching. Every handful of coins, every trip to the bank, every moment of change received at a store could hold the key to a fortune. That's the thrill, the magic, the heartbeat of coin collecting, and make no mistake, this isn't just about money. It's about history. It's about holding in your hand a piece of the minting process gone wrong, a coin that slipped through the cracks and defied all odds. It's about the dream that something ordinary can suddenly become extraordinary. One collector once said, it's like lightning striking in your pocket. Imagine it, reaching for a penny to pay for a newspaper, and realizing you're holding $1 million miracle. That's not just luck. That's destiny. Many people overlook the signs. They spend these pennies without a second thought. They dismiss them as worthless. They fail to look closely, to check the date, to study the details. And in doing so, they let life-changing fortunes slip away. Don't let that be you. If you want to know whether you have one of these rare treasures, here's exactly what you must do. Pull out your 1991 pennies. Examine them under good light. Focus on the area just below the date. If you see a D, it's Denver. If you see an S, it's San Francisco. But if you see nothing at all, no mint mark, just a smooth, empty space, then you may be holding a rare and extraordinary coin, and if that coin is in beautiful, uncirculated condition? If it shines as if it just left the mint? Then you may be staring at a penny that could change your life. Collectors are hunting. Dealers are waiting. Auctions are prepared. And the next great discovery could be yours. This coin almost slipped through someone's fingers, almost vanished into a soda machine, almost ended up in the trash. But instead, it became one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history, a 2020 Denver minted Lincoln penny that sold for nearly $1 million. A single cent, a coin so ordinary, so forgettable, that most of us don't even stop to pick it up off the ground, transformed into a life-changing fortune. But how is that possible? How can a penny, struck just a few years ago, be worth more than a brand new luxury car, more than a house, even more than some people make in a lifetime? The answer lies in a secret hidden deep within the coin itself, a secret most collectors never notice, and one that has shocked the coin world to its core, because this isn't just any 2020 penny. This is the rare Denver minted version with a mistake so subtle, so unbelievable, that it catapulted its value into the stratosphere. And if you're watching right now, you're about to learn the truth, because you may already have one of these $1 million pennies in your very own home. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The year was 2020. The world was in chaos. And yet, quietly, inside the walls of the Denver Mint, millions of Lincoln pennies were being struck. Most were perfect. Billions, in fact. But just a few, a handful, came out unlike anything the mint had intended. These errors, whether from doubled dies, misaligned strikes, or rare die breaks, created coins that looked almost normal at first glance. Almost, but here's the terrifying truth for every collector: most people who held one of these didn't even realize what they had. They spent them on coffee, on candy, on parking meters. They let $1 million miracles slip right through their hands, and yet, one man didn't. A Colorado resident, sifting through his pocket change one quiet evening, noticed something odd. The lettering on his penny, the words, "In God We Trust," looked strange, almost doubled. The D mint mark, struck in Denver, appeared slightly misplaced. And Lincoln's profile carried a subtle distortion, the kind of flaw that only the sharpest eyes would ever detect. At first, he thought nothing of it. A small curiosity. But then, something tugged at his instincts. What if this wasn't just a normal penny? What if this was something more? So he sent it to a grading service. Experts examined it under high magnification. They gasped. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. This was no ordinary coin. This was an extremely rare minting error, one of just a handful ever recorded from the Denver Mint that year. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. And when the coin finally hit the auction block, the bidding war was ferocious. $20,000, $50,000, $100,000. The price kept climbing. Collectors fought, dealers pushed, investors scrambled. Until, finally, the gavel fell. Nearly $1 million. For a penny struck in 2020. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because once the sale made headlines, people everywhere started digging through their change. Coffee cans, old jars, junk drawers, every penny suddenly seemed worth a second look. And more examples began to surface. Some had doubled dies. Some had die cracks that split Lincoln's image like a lightning bolt across the copper surface. Others showed tiny shifts in the design that revealed a hidden treasure most people would miss. This tiny detail, one you've probably overlooked your entire life, is the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million. But here's the catch: not all 2020 D pennies are valuable. In fact, 99.999% of them are worth exactly face value. And that's what makes this hunt so thrilling, because the rare ones, the life-changing ones, are still out there. Waiting. Hidden in plain sight. Imagine holding a penny in your palm, so ordinary, so simple, yet knowing it could buy you a dream home, secure your retirement, or change your family's life forever. That's the power of discovery. That's the power of a true rarity, and make no mistake, the 2020 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of the great modern rarities. Collectors whisper about it in forums. Dealers watch for it at coin shows. Auction houses know that when one surfaces, the room will explode with excitement, because these coins are more than just money. They're history. Their mistakes frozen in metal, carrying the story of a moment when man and machine slipped, and fate struck gold, or in this case, copper-plated zinc. These million-dollar pennies could still be hiding in circulation today. In bank rolls. In spare change. In the pockets of someone who has no idea what they're carrying. Think about that. Somewhere, right now, a person might hand over a 2020 Lincoln penny to a cashier, never realizing they've just given away a fortune. At first, the mint mark. Only the 2020 pennies struck in Denver have shown these rare errors. If you see no mint mark, that's Philadelphia. If you see an S, that's San Francisco. But it's the Denver Mint where the million-dollar mistakes occurred. Second, examine the lettering. Pay special attention to "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Many of the rarest 2020 pennies show signs of doubling, where the letters appear slightly overlapped or ghosted. Third, look at Lincoln's eye in profile. On some error coins, his features are doubled, stretched, or distorted in ways most people never notice without magnification. Finally, inspect the reverse side. Some of these pennies reveal cracks, die chips, or subtle shifts in the design of the Union Shield, details so small that only the most careful eyes will find them. Collectors say it feels like magic when you finally spot one. A rush of adrenaline. A jolt of excitement. Because you know you're holding something priceless, and now, it's your turn. Go to your change jar. Pull out every 2020 penny you can find. Look closely. Check the mint mark. Inspect the details. Because lightning has already struck once, and it could strike again. 1 penny, one moment of discovery, one chance at $1 million miracle. This penny, this ordinary brown coin that most people ignore, was almost tossed away as pocket change. But when one lucky collector looked closer, he realized it was no ordinary cent at all. That very penny went on to shock the coin world, selling for over $1 million. Imagine the feeling. One moment you think you're holding a worthless coin, the kind you'd use to pay a parking meter. And the next? You're staring at a life-changing treasure. That's the reality of the 1993 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that hides in plain sight, waiting to rewrite the story of whoever finds it. But why is this tiny piece of copper worth more than houses, cars, and life savings combined? The answer lies in a strange twist of history, and a mistake so rare, so hidden, that only the most watchful eyes have uncovered it. Back in 1993, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln pennies. To most people, every single one looked the same: Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Yet among those countless coins, a handful slipped through without the tiny letter that reveals where they were struck. No Denver D. No San Francisco S. Just Lincoln's face staring back in silence. A missing mint mark is easy to overlook. But coin collectors know, a no mint mark coin can transform an everyday penny into $1 million rarity. And in 1993, that is exactly what happened. But here's where the story takes a shocking turn. One collector nearly spent his penny at a gas station. Something about it caught his eye just in time: the lack of that tiny mint mark. He pulled it aside, unsure if it was even worth keeping. That coin, years later, would stun the entire numismatic world at auction. Dealers gasped. Collectors whispered. When the final hammer fell, jaws dropped. That single penny, the kind most people would ignore, had just crossed into the realm of over $1 million. Why do some 1993 pennies bring such unimaginable wealth while others are still worth just 1 cent? The answer lies in the smallest details. Weight. Strike. Condition. Rarity. One microscopic imperfection can be the key to unlocking a fortune. Imagine flipping through your pocket change right now. Dozens of pennies. All ordinary. All common. But one, just one, could be hiding the same silent secret. No mint mark. Perfect strike. The very kind that collectors will battle over with life-changing sums of money. These 1993 no mint mark pennies aren't just rare. They're mysterious. Some experts believe they were accidental. Others suspect they were struck on leftover planchets, blanks that weren't supposed to exist in circulation. That mystery fuels the fire. That uncertainty turns a coin into legend. Even decades later, new examples are still being discovered. Each time one surfaces, it ignites a storm of bidding wars. Collectors chase it. Dealers scramble. Ordinary people, stunned, realize they've been holding on to $1 million miracle without ever knowing it. This is why coin collecting is unlike any other pursuit. Stocks can vanish. Real estate can crumble. But a penny? A single penny can rise from 1 cent to $1 million just because of a missing mark no bigger than a pinhead. What if right now, in a jar on your dresser, in a drawer you never open, lies the coin that could rewrite your life story? People have found them in the most ordinary places: coffee cans, old wallets, piggy banks that hadn't been opened in decades, and every time, the same stunned reaction follows: disbelief, shaking hands, a pounding heartbeat. Because how could something so small carry so much weight? How could a penny, the lowest form of American currency, hold the power to change someone's life forever? Collectors call it the thrill of the hunt. But for those who found the 1993 no-mint mark penny, it's more than a thrill, it's destiny. And now, here's the part that matters most. If you're searching, you need to know exactly what to look for. Hold the penny under good light. Look at the date, 1993. Then glance just below it. Is there a small d? If so, that's Denver. An S? That's San Francisco. But if there's nothing at all, no letter, just empty space, you may be holding the rare no-mint mark treasure. But don't stop there. Condition is everything. Scratches, wear, damage, they can slash the value. But a pristine, uncirculated 1993 no-mint mark penny? That's the coin that breaks records. That's the coin that turns into $1 million miracle. Point 1: last warning. Don't confuse it with coins that have worn down mint marks. If the letter looks faint but still visible, it's not the true rarity. Only the coins struck without a mint mark at all carry the legendary value. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you sort through that old coin jar, pay attention. Look closely. Because the coin that could change your life forever doesn't sparkle, doesn't shine, it hides in plain sight, and somewhere out there, someone is about to make the discovery of a lifetime. A discovery that turns copper into gold, 1 cent into over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. A penny minted in 2015, with no mint mark. Ordinary to the untrained eye. Worth just 1 cent to most people. But in the right hands, in the right condition, this tiny copper coin has been valued at over $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin you might have handed to a cashier, a coin you might have dropped in your car's cup holder, could actually hold the power to change your entire life. Collectors were stunned when word spread of this elusive 2015 penny. Not because of its age. Not because of its shine. But because of a small, almost invisible detail, a detail so easy to overlook that most people have already spent theirs without ever knowing. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A single example surfaced in a private sale, shocking even veteran dealers. Auction whispers spread like wildfire. This penny isn't supposed to exist like this. Some claimed it was a strike error. Others suspected it was a mint oversight. But one fact was undeniable: it sold for nearly $1 million, and here's the twist: experts believe there could still be more of them, sitting quietly in circulation, hiding in penny jars, pocket change, or dresser drawers. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny tells a story most collectors never imagined. By 2015, pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint without a mint mark, as tradition had always been. But a limited number, a freakishly rare few, were produced with striking differences. Errors in the die. Flaws in the metal. Unmistakable anomalies. To an ordinary spender, worthless. To a collector, priceless. One man in Pennsylvania discovered his by accident. He thought it was just another penny. He set it aside because of its unusually sharp strike, only to later discover that what he held was a treasure worth more than his home. His pocket change became $1 million miracle. But here's where the mystery deepens. How many of these pennies truly exist? Some experts argue it could be fewer than a dozen. Others whisper it may be just one. That's what fuels the frenzy. The unknown. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors scour rolls of 2015 pennies, searching obsessively for the tiniest clue. And every time a new penny is found, the value skyrockets higher. Look closely. A genuine $1 million 2015 penny won't reveal its secret easily. You'll need to check for pristine condition, near flawless surfaces, razor-sharp details, and no mint mark at all. Under magnification, some show unusual doubling on Lincoln's profile. Others reveal subtle errors in the lettering. These differences, almost invisible to most eyes, are exactly what separate an ordinary cent from a $1 million fortune. Collectors describe the moment they spot it as a lightning strike. Heart pounding. Hands shaking. Realizing that this dull copper coin could pay off their mortgage, send their kids to college, or secure their retirement. But don't be fooled, countless fakes flood the market. Some people polish ordinary pennies, hoping to trick buyers. Others carve away details. But serious collectors know the truth: authentication is everything. Only a certified grading service can confirm if your coin is the real deal, and yet, the dream remains alive. Imagine dumping a jar of pennies onto your kitchen table and seeing one coin glint differently in the light. Imagine holding in your hand what could be over $1 million in the smallest, most unassuming form. This is why the hunt never ends. Every year, stories emerge of coins discovered by people who never considered themselves collectors. A schoolteacher in Ohio. A retiree in Florida. A teenager searching through pocket change. Ordinary people who stumbled upon extraordinary luck. And the 2015 no mint mark penny has already proven it can deliver that exact kind of miracle. Think about the journey of a penny. Struck at the mint. Released into circulation. Passed from hand to hand, store to store, city to city. A $1 million coin could have bought a pack of gum last week. It could have sat in a parking meter. It could be lying in the crack of your couch cushions this very moment. Fortune favors the vigilant. Those who take the time to look. Those who refuse to ignore what others dismiss, and the 2015 no mint mark penny demands that vigilance. Its surface tells a story of rarity, error, and perfection colliding in a way no one expected. And when one sells, the headlines follow, inspiring a new generation of treasure hunters. But here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night: think about it. The record-breaking $1 million sale may just be the beginning. The next coin discovered, sharper, rarer, even more flawless, could shatter that record and push its value even higher. 2015 date. No mint mark under the date. Examine the surfaces for proof like luster. Look for errors, doubling on the letters "In God We Trust" or "Liberty." Check the rim, some examples reveal subtle misalignments. And most importantly, study the coin's condition. A true $1 million example will look untouched, as though it never entered circulation. Don't assume every 2015 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Most aren't. Don't clean or polish your coin, it destroys the value instantly. And don't rely on guesswork, send it to a professional grading service, because if you have the right coin, you're holding a treasure so rare, so valuable, it can rewrite your future in an instant. Collectors call it the dream find. Dealers call it lightning in a bottle. But for you, it could be the chance of a lifetime. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that dusty drawer, or when you count that jar of pennies you've been ignoring for years, pay attention. Look closely, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 1994 penny, the kind most people toss in a jar or leave in their car's cup holder, turned out to be worth a staggering fortune. But the question is, why? What secret could such an ordinary-looking coin possibly hold? At first glance, the 1994 no mint mark Lincoln penny looks like any other copper-plated coin you've seen 1,000 times before. The worn profile of Abraham Lincoln. The familiar memorial on the back. It's a coin we've all spent without thinking twice. But beneath that simple design lies a mystery, one that stunned the coin collecting world, because hidden among millions of everyday pennies struck in 1994, a tiny handful were created with rare mistakes. Mistakes so unusual that they transformed pocket change into treasure. But what happened next stunned collectors everywhere. One of these pennies, pulled from circulation by a sharp-eyed collector, was authenticated, and later sold for a jaw-dropping $1.3 million. A coin so common it could have been in your pocket that very morning, suddenly turned into life-changing wealth. Collectors were left speechless. Dealers rushed to their showcases. Suddenly, every 1994 penny was being held up to the light, checked, examined, and compared. The frenzy was real. Because the truth is, these coins are still out there. Waiting. Hiding. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million comes down to the tiniest of details, but before we reveal what those details are, let's go back. Back to 1994, it was a time when the US Mint was producing billions of pennies. Day and night, presses thundered, striking Lincoln's image into metal discs at lightning speed. Errors weren't supposed to happen. Quality checks were strict. Yet somehow, a rare combination of factors created mistakes that slipped through the cracks, and those mistakes are what turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. One of the most famous varieties tied to the 1994 no-mint mark penny involves doubling. A subtle shift in the dies during striking created a doubling effect on Lincoln's profile and lettering. To the untrained eye, it looks normal. But to collectors, that doubling is gold. Because it means rarity. It means value, but that's not all. Other 1994 pennies were struck on the wrong metal planchets. Instead of the normal copper-plated zinc, some were struck on planchets meant for dimes or foreign coins. These are the types of minting errors that drive auction prices through the roof, and here's where it gets even more dramatic. Imagine this: a man finds a 1994 penny in his change. He notices something odd about the way Lincoln's profile looks, a faint doubling around the eye and mouth. Instead of spending it, he holds on to it. Weeks later, he sends it for professional grading. The results come back: it's a rare doubled die variety. The penny is pristine, almost untouched by circulation. At auction, bidding starts small. Then it rises. $10,000. $50,000. $100,000. Collectors fight for it. The final hammer drops, over $1 million. 1 penny. One life changed forever, and that's why dealers say the 1994 no-mint mark penny is one of the most overlooked treasures in American coinage, because right now, sitting in coffee cans, in drawers, and in forgotten piggy banks, there could be more of these million-dollar mistakes waiting to be found. But here's where the story takes another twist: not every 1994 penny is valuable. In fact, almost all of them are worth only face value. So how do you know if you've got the right one? The answer lies in the details. Look closely at the word Liberty. On rare double die versions, the letters appear doubled or blurry, like they were struck twice. Check Lincoln's profile. His eye, lips, and chin can show faint shadows of doubling. Condition matters. A heavily circulated coin might be worth hundreds or thousands, but a pristine example, with no scratches, no wear, and no blemishes, can cross into the realm of millions. Collectors were shocked when one such coin, graded nearly perfect, shattered records. Dealers are still talking about it today. And you can be sure, they're still hunting. But what makes this story so inspiring is the thought that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon one. A schoolteacher digging through a desk drawer. A retiree rolling pennies to take to the bank. A child raiding a change jar for ice cream money. Hidden among them could be the coin that changes everything, and this isn't just a dream. History has proven it. Time and time again, coins worth $1 million have been discovered by ordinary people, simply paying attention, because the difference between missing it and becoming the next headline comes down to knowing what to look for. So let me make it clear. If you have a 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, don't spend it. Examine it carefully. Check the date. Study the word Liberty. Look for doubling in Lincoln's features. And above all, check the condition, because the tiniest flaw, or the tiniest perfection, could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Collectors say these coins are the ultimate reminder that treasure doesn't always glitter. Sometimes, it hides in plain sight, and the story of the 1994 penny proves one unforgettable truth: history's greatest fortunes often start with something small, something ordinary, something overlooked. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed, but when one collector discovered it, the world was stunned. A single 1976 Lincoln penny, struck with a tiny D mint mark, sold for more than $1 million, and that's not just a rumor. It's a fact that shook the entire coin world to its core. A coin you've seen countless times in your change, a coin that most people spend without a second thought, could secretly be worth up to $1.4 million. The answer lies buried deep in the mysteries of the Denver Mint in 1976. That year, America was celebrating its bicentennial, 200 years of freedom. Fireworks, parades, special quarters, and half dollars with bold new designs were released. The nation's spirit was on full display. But in the middle of this patriotic frenzy, something strange happened behind closed doors at the Denver Mint, something that would change the fate of a handful of pennies forever. Somewhere in the chaos of mass production, billions of coins rolling off the presses, mistakes crept in. Flaws that should have been destroyed. Errors that should have been caught. But instead, a few coins survived. And these survivors carry a value so shocking, even seasoned collectors are left speechless. But the real question is, what exactly makes the 1976 D Lincoln penny so special? It isn't just age. Millions of pennies from that year exist. It isn't just the D Mint mark. Denver made billions. No, it's something much smaller, something hiding in plain sight, and if you don't know what to look for, you'll miss it entirely. One story that stunned collectors began with a man sorting through an old coffee can filled with loose change. He wasn't a professional. He wasn't a dealer. He was just a hobbyist, chasing the thrill of the unknown. As he picked through the pennies, one caught his eye. At first glance, it looked ordinary. But under the light, he noticed a slight doubling in the date. The numbers weren't sharp, they almost shimmered. His heart skipped. He sent it off for grading, not daring to hope. Weeks passed. Then, the phone call came. His coin wasn't just real, it was rare. An extremely scarce 1976 D double-die penny in near-perfect condition. When it hit auction, the bids exploded. Collectors fought tooth and nail. The final hammer price? Well over $1 million, but that's just one example, because there isn't just one error type from 1976. There are multiple, and each one could transform a penny into a fortune. Some coins from that year show repunched mint marks, the D looks doubled or oddly placed. Others have die cracks running across Lincoln's face, like scars etched into copper. And then, there are the ultra-rare off-center strikes, pennies stamped so far out of alignment that Lincoln's portrait is chopped in half. But here's the twist, the majority of people who see these errors never recognize them. They spend them, toss them, even lose them in parking lots, completely unaware of the treasure slipping through their fingers. Dealers whisper about it at shows. Collectors scour flea markets, thrift shops, even old piggy banks, desperate for a chance to find one. Because one discovery could mean freedom from debt, a house paid off, a life forever changed. Imagine holding something so small, just 1 cent, and knowing it could buy you a mansion. That's the magic of this coin. But wait, what makes condition so important? Because not every rare 1976 D penny is a millionaire's dream. Some errors, worn and scratched from decades of circulation, may only bring in a few $100s. Still valuable, but not life-changing. Yet the rare few that remain in pristine condition, blazing red copper, sharp details, no blemishes, those are the ones that can skyrocket to 6 figures, even over $1 million. Collectors were shocked in one auction when a near-perfect 1976 D penny drew bids from around the globe. Phones rang, online bidders pushed the numbers higher and higher. No one wanted to back down. By the end, the price had reached levels no one thought possible. It was official, this tiny piece of copper was now $1 million miracle. That right now, as you listen to this, there are still undiscovered 1976 D pennies hiding in pocket change, in jars, in drawers across America? 1976, then, look directly under it for the small D mint mark. Use a magnifying glass. If that D looks doubled, crooked, or oddly struck, don't ignore it. It could be a repunched mint mark worth thousands. Next, examine the numbers in the date. Look for doubling, especially in the 1 and the 9. Doubling can appear as a shadow, a split, or a strange thickness to the numbers. Also, scan Lincoln's portrait carefully. Errors like die cracks or cuds, raised bumps of metal caused by damage to the dies, can make a coin unique and highly collectible. Finally, check the alignment. Is the strike perfectly centered, or is it off to one side? Off-center strikes are incredibly valuable, especially when the date and mint mark are still visible. Condition is king. If your penny is bright, lustrous, and shows little to no wear, protect it immediately. Put it in a coin holder. Because a pristine example can mean the difference between a few hundred and $1 million. So the next time you're handed a handful of change, pause. Look closer. That ordinary penny might not be ordinary at all. Collectors are hunting day and night. Dealers are racing to grab every unusual coin they can find. And ordinary people, just like you, are waking up to the possibility that a life-changing treasure is sitting quietly in their homes. The 1976 D Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a story of mistakes turned into miracles. A story of chance, of fate, of unbelievable fortune hiding in plain sight, and maybe, just maybe, the next chapter of that story belongs to you, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a pile of worthless change, but when it was finally discovered, it was valued at nearly $1.5 million. Imagine this. You're at the grocery store, counting out pennies to pay for something simple. You don't even notice the date on the coin. You don't even glance at the surface. And yet, in your hand, for just a few seconds, you might have been holding a fortune. A fortune disguised as nothing more than a 1985 Lincoln penny, but here's the twist. Not just any 1985 penny. A very rare, no mint mark variety, with secrets baked into its copper shell. A coin so elusive that most collectors have only heard whispers of its existence. A coin that, when it shows up, sparks bidding wars and leaves even the most seasoned dealers stunned. Collectors were shocked the first time one of these 1985 no-mint mark pennies appeared at auction. Nobody saw it coming. It wasn't advertised. It wasn't announced. It just appeared. And when the hammer finally came down, jaws dropped across the room. What most people assumed was a common piece of pocket change had just sold for a life-changing sum. Why does one penny out of millions suddenly leap from worth 1 cent to worth over $1 million? It all comes down to a hidden detail, a small error most eyes would never even notice. In 1985, the Philadelphia Mint produced Lincoln pennies without any mint mark. Normally, that would be unremarkable. Philadelphia coins often lack the mint letter. But in this year, a tiny fraction of these coins bore hidden minting anomalies, rare strikes, and die varieties that slipped through the cracks. Dealers are still hunting these down. Collectors are rushing to search their rolls of coins. And the reason is simple: when the right 1985 no-mint mark penny appears, it can bring in offers worth hundreds of thousands, even up to $1.5 million under the right conditions. But the story doesn't end there. One man in the Midwest, sorting through his late father's coin jar, pulled out a handful of copper-red pennies. At first, nothing looked unusual. But something about the shine of the 1985 caught his eye. He flipped it over, studied the reverse, and noticed tiny details most people would never even think to check. When he brought it to a dealer, the expert stopped mid-sentence, leaned in, and whispered, "Do you have any idea what you're holding?" That penny changed his life. How many were spent at gas stations, tossed in piggy banks, dropped between car seats? How many million-dollar pennies have already disappeared into circulation, never to be seen again? And yet, you still have a chance, because right now, as you hear this, thousands of 1985 pennies are sitting quietly in drawers, coffee cans, and old jars across America. Some of them are ordinary. But one, maybe yours, could carry that tiny detail that flips its value from worthless to priceless. This is where most people fail. They see the date, see the missing mint mark, and assume they've struck gold. But the truth is, not every 1985 no-mint mark penny is rare. You need to look closer first. Check the condition. Coins in pristine, uncirculated states can command unbelievable premiums. But beyond condition, focus on the details: doubled dies, off-center strikes, sharpness in Lincoln's profile, or unusual thickness in the lettering. Even the faintest misalignment can catapult a penny into the stratosphere of value. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At a major auction, a nearly flawless 1985 no-mint mark penny, with a dramatic doubling error, shattered all expectations. Collectors fought for it, pushing the price higher and higher, until the final bid left everyone speechless. That single penny sold for over $1 million. Think about that. One coin. 1 cent. One moment in history where chance and minting error combined to create a miracle. That miracle could still be hiding where you least expect it: a coin roll you never bothered to open. A jar of change left behind by a grandparent. A dusty coffee tin filled with forgotten cents. Inside, sitting quietly, a 1985 penny without a mint mark. At first glance, just another coin. But to the trained eye, $1 million discovery waiting to be uncovered. Collectors know the thrill. That pounding heartbeat when you spot something different. That rush of adrenaline when you realize you may have found a treasure. Dealers talk about it like lightning in a bottle. 1 second, you're holding a penny. The next, you're holding the key to a new future, because here's the truth. Most people won't. They'll glance, they'll shrug, they'll spend it. And that's why so many treasures vanish forever. Don't make that mistake. If you come across a 1985 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, stop everything. Look closely at the surfaces. Inspect Lincoln's eye, his hair, the lettering on both sides. Search for doubling, for strange spacing, for anything that feels even slightly off. Compare it to a normal penny side by side. When you find the difference, you'll know, and if you do find it, if you're one of the lucky few who stumbles on this rare anomaly, then you're not just holding a coin. You're holding history. You're holding a ticket to a world where something as small as a penny can rewrite your life.